Welcome to ZIPS Nation Insider, powered by the Fear the Root Collective and Bryant Heating and Cooling. My name is Jacob Farrar with Grant Bogdan. Grant, welcome. We're back in the suite, back in the Learfield suite after a vacation over at the Jar. We're back in the suite. A little bit different arrangement, but it's nice to be back in the friendly confines of the Learfield
back
suite.
where it all started here.
Where it all started. So it's a big week on campus for
Huge.
ZIPS Athletics. Probably might be the biggest week of the fall sports.
So far, yeah.
If you
Biggest
think
week of the
about
year.
what we have going on, and yesterday obviously we're going to talk a little bit about the football game, but we have football, we have soccer, obviously hosting an NCAA tournament first round game here on Thursday, but also we have the Akron Basketball Classic taking place. So we'll preview all of those here in a sec, but yeah, big week. Let's start with football. The wagon wheel stays in Akron.
Second year in a row.
Second year in a row.
So
Nice to get a win, and it was one of those wins. Now, granted, I did text you after Kent State's first.
it was a little scary
touchdown.
there. 3 plays into the game.
Yeah, I sent you a text and said, "Oh no, we might have some problems." But it's one of those games that I like where kind of the end wasn't in doubt once we got past that. Which, as we have established on this show, that I prefer blowout games versus nail biters. So
I think I'm a little bit the other way, but obviously glad that it ended the way that it did. Started slow, like you said. That third play, it was kind of questionable at first what we were doing on defense, but after that, it was really the Zips the whole way.
So 527 total yards of offense. I mean, that's awesome.
We had 2 running backs who went over 100 yards on the ground. So the run game was there. I think I saw they averaged 10 yards a carry, so that was huge for them. And then Taj had 2 touchdowns. How big has he been? In the last few games.
Yeah, a little bit scary at the end when he got hurt, but we were okay with that. He obviously it was just shaken up for a little bit, but came back in the next series. So Ben Finley, 250 yards of passing, the touchdown. So it was great to see him contributing that way. Defense held the Golden Flashes to only 52 yards of rushing.
17 points.
I think the only thing that I think from a negative is I think the defensive backs coach is probably going to have a little bit of film to. They gave up 2 big, long touchdowns, but other than that, it was a solid win by the Zips, a way that we like to see these wagon wheels take place. So, again, having a wagon wheel for another year on campus.
Wonderful.
We talked a little bit about Zips soccer. We're going to have Coach Embick here on a little bit, but let's preview a little. We have Princeton coming in on Thursday, game time 6 p.m. They won the Ivy League tournament to launch them into the NCAA. They did play a couple of Big East teams, so I don't know about previewing. So they played 3 Big East teams. Only one of them we actually played. They lost to Georgetown.
Exactly. Yeah, I was going to say that.
So maybe that's something in common. But it'll be interesting to again, we have that tournament game. Hopefully they bounce back from that loss against Georgetown, and then also that was their first loss, the Georgetown, since mid-September.
Yep.
So I think one thing we'll kind of preview our conversation with Coach Embick is what does that loss do as far as, hopefully that's something that can motivate them, move them forward in the NCAA tournament. So.
100%. And Princeton's a really solid team as well, 12-6 record on the year. And one thing for the Zips team is, they lost in the Big East tournament, but their goals are still ahead of them when it comes to the College Cup. You still have opportunity to finish the season strong and try to go deep in this tournament. So. Still opportunity to make a splash, and they walk away the year Big East regular season champs.
All right, let's preview basketball. So basketball, we have the Akron Basketball Classic coming up this weekend. So we have four teams. Obviously, Akron's part of it, including Lamar, Nebraska, Omaha, and Alabama State, all coming to town. The Zips play on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Again, hosting that tournament. Excited to see what the basketball team. It's been a while since they played.
I was going to say, it ends a long break for them. I think it's been 10 days since their last game when they played St. Mary's. So good to have them back in action, like you said, 3 days in a row, Friday, Saturday, Sunday this weekend.
So hopefully see some fans at the Jar this weekend. As far as women's basketball go, they are at 2-2, big win against Cleveland State, their last game last weekend. But they're on the road for the next 2 weekends. Something to note, I was looking at Max stats, and we have 4 players in the top 25 in points per game, which is fantastic.
That's
with
great.
Tanisha Clark at number 8. Tanisha was one of our guests a few weeks ago when we had some players from the women's basketball team. So again, kind of previewing. They play, again, the next couple weeks on the road, and then they'll be back here in the Jar on the 4th against Slippery Rock. And then finally, just one last thing, volleyball finish the season. So we won't have any more volleyball updates, but we're excited to see what happens next year with the volleyball team. So.
Yeah, crossover season, a lot going on. Basketball, soccer, football. Big week for Akron Athletics, and looking forward to it.
All right, with that, we are excited to have our guest, Coach Embick. We'll bring him on. Coach, welcome.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. Welcome to the Learfield Suite. How often do you get up to football games to watch from the suite level?
Not often. I came to homecoming. What was it, Bowling Green?
Okay.
I took my wife and kids, but we sat down by the field. My son wanted to go see Zippy.
There you go.
So we stayed closer to Zippy than up here.
There you go. Well, welcome to the suite. Excited to have you here. We've actually had a couple of your players on with previous episodes, so we're excited to be able to talk with you. And obviously, we're going to preview a little bit with what's going on this week. But just really, before we get into kind of learning more about you, I was, obviously any good host should do some research. And I was blown away. And you're probably going to be not happy that I'm going to be touting some of your success. So I know this is stuff you probably already know, but for our listeners, viewers, so as a head coach, you've had an impressive, including this season, a 675 winning percentage. In your time in Akron, both as the assistant and head coach, secured 11 conference tournament titles, 15 trips to the NCAA tournament, and 3 appearances in the College Cup final. 48 players to go on and play professionally since 2007. The Zips have led the country with 8 players selected among top 5 picks in the MLS Super Draft since 2008. And then you consistently have some of the top recruiting classes each year. I was not aware of that success. So again, I'm going to ask you, I'm sure you know this stuff, but it's probably not something you dwell on a regular basis.
Right.
But congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So with all that success you've had, is it even possible to name your proudest moment as a coach or assistant coach or head coach of the Zips?
Yeah, I mean, you always think about the national championship, but I think, you can look at like each of the different tournament runs. So like 2018, I think we were 6-6 at one point in the season, and that year we had a ton of turnover, and then we're just able to go on a run and lost in the final. I think really proud about that team, how it turned around, but a lot of moments. I mean, if you asked me on the day, I could pick a different moment, different time. But we've had a lot of fun and a lot of good games and big matches, and looking forward to some more.
And back to the idea of these players getting drafted. I mean, you've had these players that have gone on to have success after Akron. That's probably part of again, if I were to ask you what your proudest moment is, probably some of that as well, of these players just having success once they leave and what they've learned here as a player on your team. So you've been on campus since 2007. So if you can just kind of remind folks of your journey here, how did that start, and just what brought you to Akron?
Yeah, I was coaching in St. Louis at a small school, Missouri Baptist University, and I always view myself as a little bit of an underdog story. Played in college and had a good college career in the NAIA, but didn't play Division I. But when I was coaching in St. Louis, I worked for the university, and I worked for a club called Metro United, and so I was working a lot of long days. I was assistant for men and women when I started at Missouri Baptist, and then coaching in the evening. So put a lot of hours in early, and then the club coaches hooked me up with Indiana University soccer camp, and that was probably the moment where things maybe changed for me. I went and worked, and then Caleb Porter was my, I was working with U12s, and he was kind of the camp coordinator for that division, and got to know him there, and we had some good conversations about soccer, and he asked me about my career and what I've been doing, and I think he followed a little bit of the success I had at Missouri Baptist, and then he had an opening here, in his second year, and thankfully thought of me and reached out to me, and then I was head coach at Missouri Baptist at the time, and decided to leave and come here, and been here ever since.
It's success ever since. That's a fantastic story. So thinking about those coaching stops and probably the mentors you've had, what are some of the things that you've learned that you've been able to apply here? I think I've asked previous coaches we've had on, kind of their Mount Rushmore of coaches, mentors, but not going to get too much into that. But what some of the things you've learned from some of these stops that you've been able to apply with the teams you've had here at Akron.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you work at a smaller school, you have to be a lot more creative. You don't have all the facilities, amenities. So Dale Shirley was one of the first mentors I had, and he worked at a smaller university, and he brought me at Metro United. So he helped me really think through creative ways to do some things at small schools, whether it's raise money or build a team. Other ways you can, learn that. And then obviously here, Caleb, obviously as a player and coach at IU, had the tremendous amount of success and mentorship of Jerry Yeagley. So you really learned how to win at the Division I level through him, and just Caleb's intensity and how demanding he was of players and the expectations. I think I learned a lot about that, and but I think mostly for any young coach or any coach, it's experience and putting the hours in. And I look back, like I was up at coaching at 7 a.m. and home at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., and then most weekends dedicated to tournaments and games. So just hours after hours involved with the game, learning, making mistakes, forming your coaching style, the way you want to play, trying things, and there's no substitute for that experience. And then when you can then have good mentors like I had with Dale and Juan Pablo Favero at Missouri Baptist and Caleb Porter, then hopefully it helps you become who you are as a coach and be successful. And I've been fortunate enough to follow those guys' lead.
So kind of the two ingredients is just putting in the work, the grind, and then having those mentors to be able to kind of fill in the blanks of some of the things you probably can't figure out yourself.
Yeah.
They kind of help with that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this past season, the 2004 season. But before we get into that, I'm curious as to what the off season looks like for you. So normally a season gets done by Thanksgiving, Christmas. At what point do you start thinking about moving forward with the following season?
Yeah, you kind of, it goes quick. You get the portals open. I think for us it opens next week. So you could be playing while it opens, and then it's all right. How do you assess your key players, or who you think will be your key players, and how do you want to build around that? And then obviously you evaluate freshmen, JUCO, portal, international kids in our case, and try to put the best team together. And you have a real busy time. People think once the season ends, it's over. But if you want to get players in off the portal or some international kids or anything in for January, it becomes pretty fast moving, and you got to go to work, and there's a couple of recruiting events. Then when you get into January, you kind of take your first stab at what the team may look like, what's your ideas on the teams, and you won't have maybe some of the freshmen that are coming in the fall.
Sure. But
you may have half or 2/3 of your team here, and you kind of like, all right, what do we really have, all right, and how can we build around that, and is there any missing pieces to the class we need to add before the fall comes, and you have some freshmen that are going to come in and help, but and then it's training and games and film and trying to build that identity.
So it's definitely a year-round, especially for the transfer portal. I was going to ask about that because I think most people know a little bit about football, basketball portals, but is it the similar with soccer? Then it's the same kind of players they can then declare to be in the portal, and you just are you constantly looking to see who's kind of put themselves out there, I guess, so to speak?
Yeah, you keep an eye. We have a couple key players from the portal last year, like Emil.
Sure.
Beto in defense, and then Victor in midfield. 3 really key transfers, and they all got to us different. Emil, we played Long Island last year, and when we were scouting him, we were like, wow, I mean, what a player, and we're always keeping an eye on if he would ever pop in the portal, and we were fortunate he did, and then fortunate to convince him to come here. And then Beto was a recommendation from a former player, Zarek Valentin at Minnesota. Zarek plays on the Puerto Rican national team, and so does Beto. Okay. And he wasn't getting the playing time at Central Florida, and Zarek called us and said, look, I don't know why he ain't playing, but you gotta take a look at this kid. He wants a chance in his last year, and we did our background, and then like Beto we brought in, played midfield. We thought he could transition to center back from the conversations with people at Puerto Rico on the national team, and then his leadership. So like he's come in and we named him captain, which is rare for a senior player that's coming with 1 year. Victor, same thing, was a recommendation from a Division III college coach. He used to coach the kid at St. Olaf, but then he took a job at Kenyon. And, Victor was going to play his last year at St. Olaf, won a national championship, said he wants to play his grad year, Division I. And he said, look, there's a really good player, but he needs to play in a certain team, certain way of playing. And he's like, I told him it's you guys. And then we were able to get him. And all three of those guys have been key ingredients to what we had. And we have some freshmen that are very talented and other transfers that are talented that are kind of, you might see here in the future. You might see them pop up in the tournament, but definitely in the next year or so, you'll see some of those other pieces we put together that, you kind of think sometimes, all right, depth, and then they become a key player.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, with you kind of said that yourself, that you have these players that came through the portal or first year here at Akron that are first team not just first team all Big East, but also offensive player of the year and defensive player of the year. That so obviously they've contributed a lot to the team. So let's kind of focus a little bit about this season. We had Coach John Gross, a couple weeks ago on our show, and high praises for you and for this idea that the pre-conference season, the pre-conference play, not to worry about things. Like he was mentioning that soccer. I think if you were to ask people before conference play, there was some concern. You may not have been concerned, but I know fans were a little bit shaky about what was going on. But he credited you of just be calm. Just hey, this is where you're kind of figuring things out. And he likened that to his pre-conference play within basketball, and again referenced you and then I saw him on another interview where he said the exact same thing. So high praise to you from Coach Gross. But so I was just curious, like what changed between? I think you could look at a calendar, the Temple game and the Butler game. There was something happened that week. I don't know what it was, but man, that's when the streak started between those two games.
Right. I think it was a weird start for us. I think the first challenge was, we knew we had a good team. We weren't quite sure how to maybe piece it together, not only starting lineup, positionally, roles, and off the bench. So I think early on there was some, trial and error that may have cost us some results. But I was like, look, you look at the games, I was like, look, Notre Dame, fair result. Ohio State, we were outplayed. Outside of that, felt like we probably could have and should have won the other games, and you're sitting at 1-3-3, and you're like, what's going on? You're like, well, we got to just fine tune some things and correct some mistakes that have made it. And I think, maybe the urgency that comes with being 1-3-3 got the seriousness to the players. But we needed the Butler win for momentum to get the belief and confidence going. And then, once we kind of got that, we kept growing and then we get to where you have the Georgetown game, which I thought we played pretty well, and it was just something that happens in soccer sometimes. You can lose playing well.
And then the goal fest against St. Francis, I think, also helped kind of opened up the floodgates, so to speak. Mm-hmm. You have to credit Chad Welker, who part of our team here, also does the the announcing. We were talking to him before, kind of during that 1-3-3 part of the season or whatever. And he mentioned they just need to score goals. They'll have it. It's like almost like a shark with blood in the water that they'll just go forward, and that's exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. So big credit to Chad Welker for helping us kind of be calm, guys. Be calm. Nothing to worry about. Once they start scoring goals, you'll see. And so yeah. I mean, obviously the season turned out fantastic. Mm-hmm. Second year in the Big East. What does that change from going from the MAC to the Big East? What does that? I mean, obviously you're now second year in. Win the regular season, championship, so to speak. But how has that been, that move from the MAC to the Big East, from your point of view?
I think this is, we did it to ideally for NCAA tournament reasons, and we'll have our first run from it here starting tomorrow. But, it's good. Like all the teams are capable of beating you. Tough places to play. They all have, an attacking player that can win them a game, and that can all lock up the game defensively. And I think the issue in the conference sometimes is the out-of-conference results are a little inconsistent from team to team, depending on it. But in conference, it's very difficult then to go to some of these places and travel and play at their home stadium has been a challenge. But I think the first time through, we kind of learned a lot of lessons that we kind of applied the second time that I think helped us. And then obviously getting the big win, Butler, Georgetown kind of start to the season, I think really gave us belief we can get through it.
Sure. So with this team, 10 of the players are coming from another country, different cultures. Mm-hmm. How do you kind of help everyone kind of gel together? Obviously, I mean, they speak English, but some of those things, what's the kind of the philosophy of helping those players kind of gel together? What do you do to help with that?
Yeah, I mean, off the field, you try to put together some fun things sometimes when you go on the road or this or that to, allow for them to lighten up and show their personality. On the field, it's I think the same as anything. You gotta define your identity, your style of play, and the guys' roles, and you gotta train them into it hard. And I think once they are in sync with each other on how you want to play and believe in the identity, then they can mesh. Doesn't really matter what country they're from. It's kind of just getting everybody off the field to understand maybe differences in the culture and how you maybe motivate or how they view soccer. Like, for them, they've grown up and soccer's been a very serious part. And some American players, look, they've grown up playing 3-4 sports and realize, hey, I'm pretty good at soccer, but it kind of means differently at times. But there's no secret. Sometimes you get it wrong and the personalities clash and you can't work through it. But I think with this group, the character of all the players have, as you've seen us go through the adversity and come out on top. You can only do that with good people and guys that have character and are willing to kind of work through some of these things on and off the field.
So is that probably the hardest thing to judge then, is the character part? I mean, obviously you can see there's tape, their play on the field, mm-hmm. but how do you kind of judge that character? Is it through, phone calls? Like, how do you determine what that character piece is?
Yeah, ideally you hope when you make phone calls, like in Beto's case, we talk with Zarek, talk with the assistant of the Puerto Rican national team. We talked with their assistant at Central Florida, and you're hoping they're going to be honest with you, right? And if they're honest with you, then you have a good read on the kid. And he had a slow start, but I said, look, we talk to people about you. We know who you are as a person. Just it's just go time, right?
Yeah.
We got to just step it up here, and you've seen the results, but. You try, and the tricky part is in some cases with freshmen that they get oversold or they don't want the kid to think they ruin an opportunity, and sometimes they maybe paint a different picture, which is fine. It just means it may take you longer to get the kid where you need them. In some cases, it may mean like, all right, well, now that's a wrong fit because you didn't tell me the things. But as a coach, you try to do your due diligence as best you can, and unfortunately, we don't get the evaluations to maybe see it with our own eyes enough.
Yeah.
Like, rarely can you see some of these kids play in person like more than a couple times, and that's a good tell when you can see them warm up, see how they interact with their teammates at different times.
But wins and losses, probably how they react to those types of adversity situations.
Yeah, good and bad games. Like I always like to. Watch a player after he's played a bad game, kind of see does he go in a slump, is he able to move on, and does he come back and have a really good game, then that in those situations, like you can probably motivate him through some things, right? He's got some fight to him.
Sure. The role that your assistants play in that, obviously you guys, congratulations, the unanimous coaching staff of the year for the Big East. Where do your assistants fit into both the chemistry, but also some of the strategy and coming up with the game tacticians, so to speak?
Yeah, the awesome staff. Tella handles a lot of the organization, logistics, and he's a very intelligent numbers guy, so he can sometimes break down some numbers for us to help us. Jer been with me a long time, does the goalkeepers, and you can tell he does a fantastic job. Mitch, goalkeeper of the year, and
Sure.
he does a lot of our set pieces and does scouting and recruiting. Then you got Michael, who works a lot with the attackers and does a lot of the scouts and recruiting as well. And good compliments to me. Jerry's very direct, so the players know where they stand with him. And Michael's very energetic, and you can tell sometimes I ain't the most energetic. You put me and John in the same room, you're going to have 20 people over there and probably 2 here. But Michael brings that energy, I think, that helps balance that out. So I think we put together a fantastic staff, and with this group, it's worked out very well.
Yeah, I've been to matches, watch you, and something happens, and pretty stoic out there. I mean, which I think, for some people that's great. For me, I'm like, man, do you think is he mad? Like, I can't, But I think it's just, to your point, you need to have that complementary personalities, because people are driven both ways. Like, it's not just a one size fits all for, how do you motivate a player to do, play their best. So.
Yeah, I feel like when you grow up in America, like the coach, they want just ranting and raving, high energy, whatever you view, but like very energetic on the sideline. And my time as a player, I just wanted a coach to look over there and just feel confidence and feel like he trusts, and not talk me through a game, right? Like, I want to play the game. I don't want to listen to you tell me how to play the game, right?
That's a good point.
So some of that is just my philosophy, but trust me, the players do know when I'm upset. So the fans, I hide it from them, but the players, they do get it.
They know it.
Yeah,
they know it. No, it's kind of like your parents, right? Your parents, know when your parents are mad at you.
That's right. Yeah.
So when you think about the players that leave the program, what lesson do you want them to take away? What do you think, the goal is when they leave Akron, this is going to be something that's part of who they are, part of their DNA?
Yeah. Hopefully the experience, how they've been treated by the coaches, and hopefully they feel like we put in a lot of effort to help them, and develop them and on and off the field, and that there's no ill will towards their experience, and hopefully they feel special from the fans of the community and all that, and generally I think we have, like anybody, we'll have players that transfer out, but rarely for reasons you see elsewhere. Like a lot of it is to go find playing time. It's rarely because, hey, I don't like how we've been handled or treated, and I think that speaks a lot to what we try to do and all that. But on a personal side, like as a soccer player, you hope they see, in my opinion, I hope they see the game differently, one that helps them obviously play at higher levels, but where they can feel more confident in the game, and they came here and be like, wow, I see so much more of the game. I feel so much better about how to play it. I understand it better. And I feel like I can take that with me and be very successful.
So on Thursday, when this airs, we're recording here on Wednesday. Thursday, you have your big match tomorrow, big match against Princeton. If you can scout a little bit, obviously, some of these things you don't want to put out there of like, we know their exact weaknesses. From a scouting perspective, what are some of the things that they do well that you guys need to account for?
I mean, right now, I look at them similar to us. They were, mid-season probably feeling like they weren't going to be in the tournament, like kind of, not the record they hoped for, and they kind of got hot, very similar to like we did at the end of the year, and playing their best soccer. So right now you got to deal with the team that's feeling very confident about themselves, coming off a tournament win, being 2 very good teams, and they got, like all good teams at this level, you got to have balance. So they've been starting to defend very well, tough to score on, but they got obviously 3 forwards that can score goals and can be dangerous anytime in transition or anytime on set pieces. And we're going to have to play one of our better games. We're not going to be able to walk out there and just assume we're going to win. We're going to have to really work for it.
I think I'm not going to even talk about it, but I'd say you don't want to look past this match to get to the next one. So don't want to even enter that thought of looking past this particular one. So you mentioned this, I think it was press conference or right after the selection show, you talked about what that loss against Georgetown hopefully does. Can you kind of share that? Again, it's been a long time since the team had lost a match. What do you think this loss, and hopefully how it will motivate the team in this first round match?
Yeah, I mean, I thought when I thought about the game, I'm like, we played pretty well. There's a difference between regular season and postseason, and I think our game, we lose that game because maybe our inexperience maybe in the last year or two as a group with this postseason maybe came into play. So I talked to the team a lot about, look, it's got to find the right emotional state. Like I felt like we were very excited to play, but sometimes that came across as too excited. So we're making some plays where we could be strong on the ball, we're kind of flicking it, maybe that came with a little confidence. But in tournament play, you got to kind of start games well. Typically, you got to be strong on the ball, which we usually are. But like with Georgetown in the first game, we struggled on restarts. So you look at, they'd put a ball in behind us. We try to shield it out, which I thought is a play we should play out. And they kind of bounce it off us, get a corner kick, and then it's, all right, now one thing we struggled out, probably the worst at Georgetown and survived it, was restarts. And then this is how they kind of built confidence into the game. Up to that point, I think we were knocking on the door. We were driving closer to their box, and this was their first opportunity. First corner kick, our goalkeeper has to make a really good save. Second one, we defend well, but we give up a third one, and the third one, the guy hits a rocket. So now you're 7 minutes in the game, and you gave a team that you beat earlier that may be unsure on energy, momentum, and now we have to chase the game, and now they can sit and play in a more comfortable style for them. And I didn't think we represented maybe how we played in that run in the first half, but then I think in the second half you saw a little bit about what we're capable of, and I think we're unfortunate not to maybe get a second. We played really well the second half, and then you get to overtime, and the NCAA has taken away overtime. Even last year in the tournament, you didn't have golden goal. Yeah. So now we're in our first golden goal situation in years, and golden goal, now when the ball gets closer to your 18, you're now like freaking out a little bit more. And I thought their play that they scored, we kind of slid tackled the ball, it ricocheted off two players and goes to them. They get a fortunate bounce, but I just felt like we were pretty rash, almost panicky in that moment, because that's kind of what it creates in golden goal. So I think that experience and learning, hey, we have to not give teams we're better than momentum in games. If they get momentum, we got to make it a short period of time, manage those periods well, and then you gotta do what you do well, right? You got to bring your game. You can't play it safe. You got to trust what you've done to do that. And I just felt like there was moments we let Georgetown in the game early when we could have maybe chewed on their belief and while we're settling in the game, and then overtime, I think it's just learning that same thing, the emotions of it, and it could be a heck of a learning experience for us, just have a little reset from a humility standpoint. Going into it, it was always going to be very difficult to maybe win 16, 17 in a row, so maybe to have a little reset to say, hey, let's go back to the details that got us to this point.
We are human, so to speak. That's the gist that I gave as obviously you're talking now, but from that interview that I saw, that really just kind of that reset and realize that, hey, we can bleed, so let's figure out a way to learn from that. So we're here with Coach Jared Embick, the head coach of the ZIPS men's basketball team on ZIPS Nation Insider. This guest of the suite is courtesy of Tire Source, the official sponsor of the Turnover Tire. So when you think about a season, there's a lot of highs and lows, right? In this case, there are a lot of highs with that win streak, but how do you deal personally with the highs and lows? It feels like you have pretty even keel personality, but how do you take, I guess from a mental wellness perspective, you as a coach, think about the highs and lows to kind of even things out? What's your strategy for that?
You're always evaluating, I think. So if you're always looking at what you have to do to get better, how do you fine tune things and kind of not get too wound up in the big picture, but it was easier as an assistant to do that. As a head coach, you obviously have to navigate a path for the team, and vision for the team. But I think when you've done it for a while, you get better at understanding of like, all right, 1-3-3, but a lot of good games left, a lot of time, and you understand when you have a good group. And I've always said with this group, we're capable of achieving big things, and that we have to work at it, but the talent is there, and I think we can put the team out there that can do it. So it's like, all right, how do we help them? Where are we failing? What communication? And it's a lot of times, sometimes you have long talks with your assistants, and then you talk to some of your mentors and your friends, like, hey, I must not be communicating my thoughts clearly. How do you communicate some of these things? Is there a better message that I can give the guys, a simpler message rather than maybe some of what I've been giving them? And I kind of changed some of the messaging at times, and I think that helped and simplified some things as well.
Okay, so this is the part of our interview that we love it when our student athletes come on, coaches. This is, we call it hometown pizza.
Yeah.
So from Granite City, Illinois, if we're going to go visit Granite City, where are we going to pizza in Granite City?
Emo's Pizza.
Emo's Pizza.
Yeah.
I was hoping you say that because I want to know more about St. Louis style.
Yeah.
Talk about St. Louis style pizza. So we're going to Emo's.
Yeah, it's thin crust, and it's the cheese. It's Provel cheese and that they put with it. And usually when you get people outside of St. Louis, they're like, man, what is that? It kind of sticks to the roof of your mouth. My wife's one of the only few people that actually likes it. It was probably why we get along so well. But yeah, it's just thin crust, a little different type of cheese mixed in there. And there's different places in St. Louis that have their kind of thoughts on the sauce, but it's just, I think that's the cheese, it's the thin crust that kind of make it work.
Yeah, I did a little bit of a deep dive today about Provel cheese. Never heard of it before, but yeah, that's the kind of the key signature thing of St. Louis style. So if we're going visiting you in Granite City, we're going to Emo's Pizza to get a St. Louis style. Coach, do you have any pregame superstitions or rituals that you need to do? Now, again, if you don't want to share these, because again, you're now putting this out into public.
Yeah.
But we learned a lot from Coach Gross and his.
Yeah.
He was a little overly shared. I hope we didn't jinx him. But do you have any super rituals, even as a player, or anything that you need to?
You have those, and once you get to game day as a coach, there's less that you can do. Training's done. Maybe you have another meeting or two with the team, but it's a lot of just waiting and dealing with the nerves. So superstitions, I feel like, are ways we deal with it. So for our staff, we go to breakfast.
Okay.
So
game day breakfast.
Yeah, it was Akron family. Then when we lost 3 games at home, we had to switch it up. No offense, great place. We miss it. So then we went to First Watch, and we've been successful. And the second part is you have to get the same order.
Same order.
Same order.
Oh my goodness! So for the last, how long you've had the same order at First Watch?
Yeah, no, it's a great feeling. I ain't gonna lie.
But I guess if it's success, it's only weird if it doesn't work, right?
Well, we had, what was it? I have a couple funny stories about this. Like, it started, Caleb Porter was like this, and his was, he got the receipt and it was 11-11.
Okay.
So he makes a wish, and then so he can order 3 meals, right? And he would say, my receipt is 11-11. You put the rest on the assistants. I'm like, that's not fair, but that's what would happen. So we got to play first year. We were undefeated at home. We're playing a tournament game against South Florida, and the assistant tries to tell, the waitress the thing. Hey, it's got to be 11-11. Caleb gets his receipt. It's 11-12.
Oh man.
He's obviously like, change it. Goes, change it. Put the 1 cent over here. Well, we lose the game in overtime. And then now, kid you not, like we're at Akron family, and I ordered something. I got to remember what it was. I ordered like fruit, and they brought out hash browns. I'm like, oh no, oh no, and we lost because it wasn't the same order. And people are like, are you crazy? I'm like, it probably has nothing to do with it, but it always works out. Like, if you order something and they don't bring it out, it's like something wrong with that universe, and you got to figure out how to change it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it started, and we've kind of kept it, and now it's a little bit maybe psychotic behavior at times. But the second one is after we have our pregame meal, the staff goes and gets. I don't go with them. I go to my office. The rest of the staff goes to Speedways, buy candy.
Okay.
So they buy the blue packet of the
So we're getting
nerd,
very specific here.
the nerd things. What is it? The nerd gummies.
Nerd gummies.
And then a pink packet. And I have to open the pink packet and have it one. You laugh, but we went to UConn. We didn't have any of those gummies. We tied 0-0. That was the first
Yeah.
game we didn't get a result in a while. We obviously had too many at Georgetown. We had like 6 packs out. We probably just needed one. But yeah, you always have weird things that kind of just say, all right, everything's good. Stay calm, stay confident. My wife is like, these are all stupid. I'm like, well, what else am I going to do? I'm just sitting here waiting until 7 o'clock to play a game.
I love it.
And
I
they just
appreciate
died.
you sharing this because we've asked everyone that's come on that question, and there's some that don't have. No, I don't do anything. I'm like, I don't know about that. Like, I feel like you kind of need as superstition or routine. I appreciate you sharing that and kind of putting that out there into the world that you guys are. I mean, I think this is the best example of that question. All right, so this is our rapid fire segment. Our rapid fire segment is powered by 330 To Go, Northeast Ohio's hottest and fastest growing news and entertainment media network. But we're doing something special with this rapid fire segment. This is the Thanksgiving edition.
Oh, yeah.
All right, turkey or ham?
Oh, good one. Ham.
Ham. All right. Favorite side dish?
Stuffing.
Stuffing, but not dressing. Stuffing. It's stuffing.
Yeah,
Stuffing.
it's homemade stuffing. Yeah.
Homemade stuffing. Pumpkin pie versus apple pie.
Apple pie.
All right. Well, that takes my next question: pumpkin pie versus every other dessert. But you're an apple pie, so we'll stick with that. And then Macy's Day Parade versus a football game.
Oh, my parents would be the parade. I would be football game.
Football game.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Coach Jared Embick from the ZIPS men's soccer team. Again, big match this week against Princeton on Thursday. We're excited for this season, excited for the team, and we wish you all the best of luck. So thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me.